Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the sixth episode of the Music Mentality Podcast. We're trying this again. Wow, my microphone fell down so low. How is this? Gosh. Okay. I'm sorry about your ears. There we go. How's everybody doing today? Jonathan's doing math homework, so he's only half present. And also he's in a college, so you'll see college people walking by him in the background. How's everybody doing?
Fraternity. Pretty
Amazing.
Splendid.
mad.
How
Yeah,
was
it kinda
your
sucks.
How was your like week vacation? We didn't have an episode last week because I was exhausted.
And
Good.
hey, look, I'm just gonna let you know, none of us have any character.
All right.
Excellent. All right. Well,
Keep it moving.
it's like more difficult than pulling teeth to get you guys to even say how you're doing this week.
Oh my god.
So we'll
Look, I
just
mean-
start with topics.
No. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. Here you go.
Nobody cares. Let's hear your
okay.
topic.
That's all right.
Oh no.
Okay. My heart hurts.
Jacob was exhausted last week.
Jacob was
Yeah.
exhausted last week. Jacob took a break this weekend. Like an actual full-on break from music school, did no homework break.
Oh, nice.
Which is like crazy for
Are you
Jacob.
failing now?
No, I'm not.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So yeah, that was fun. But now we're back. So, Brain, what have you been listening to over the last 2 weeks?
Meshuggah.
What an answer.
I always say that almost every time, but I really, really have gotten even more into them. And I think that the mixing and the mastering behind what they do has to be so precise to get 8-string guitars to like sit appropriately along with bass, and then the whole dilemma of, do you octave tune the bass or do you unison tune the bass? Because at a certain point it's like, where is the fundamental even at? So just the way they have gone to such lengths to make their music sound cataclysmically mega, right?
Are you saying
Yeah.
that
Meshuggah.
like
Plus they play
Plus say what?
Plus, they play phenomenally.
Hmm. So
But that's it.
are they tuned, or are they using like how many string guitars did you say that they're using? Are they like way in the bass register? Is that the problem?
Yes, and I actually saw a rig rundown, and they said that all the old material was on 7 strings, and so the bass would tune a 5-string bass to match the bottom of the 7th string on the guitar, right? Then they got into the 8-string range, and the bass could only tune, so far down. But anyway, now they have gone back to using the lowest B you can imagine on a bass. And it's an octave below the B that is normally on a 5-string bass. And it rumbles the universe and is the lowest thing ever.
Is that even
Jake,
okay? So
possible?
the B string on a bass is this octave. That's the B string on a 5-string bass, which is 2 keys before you're off the piano.
Oh, okay. So I think they go to the F sharp beneath that, actually.
Interesting.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
more plausible.
Yeah. Whereas before they couldn't get any lower. They couldn't get down to that. But lately they've gone to the F sharp beneath that.
They must be using like giant speaker sizes, because in order to even like get that sound, the literal like size of the speaker matters in order to produce that fundamental pitch really low, right? To hear it. So that's kind of neat.
And side note, I want to make this present. They play backlit. There are no lights on the band when they perform. It's a light show behind them, and they're just silhouettes in it, playing this rhythmic music. That will be of importance soon in this episode.
That's super cool, actually. I mean, I know I would like that because, I mean, how do you guys feel about being on stage and not being able to see anything except your other band members because there's just giant bright lights in your eyes? You know? Like, you can't see anything, and it's like, okay, we're already worried about hurting our hearing. What about hurting our vision, too? You know, with giant LEDs, and you look to the side of the stage and there's like LEDs there and there's LEDs here and LEDs there, and you're like, it's like when you're driving and someone has LED headlights that aren't pointed down because they didn't point them down properly, and so they just blind you, and you're like, I guess I'll drive off the road now, you know?
You drive towards them so they can learn.
And they can see you so clearly that they can be
Yeah.
able to, yeah.
I guess we'll put that to the test. We'll find out.
Yeah. Cool.
Meshuggah. What about y'all?
Jonathan, what have you been listening to these past 2 weeks?
I guess apparently ghetto music. That's what I heard.
What does that mean?
So I was studying yesterday, and my friend Veronica told me to turn my music off because it was corridos, and she said, "That's ghetto." So you don't know what those are. It's kind of like, I guess, Mexican folk music or something. But they like to sing about like drugs and killing people, and so that's why she's like, it's ghetto. Makes sense.
Oh.
Yeah.
Some of them. Corridos? Is that what they're called or something?
I don't know, narco corridos.
Something like that. Is that what they're called?
You're right. They're all drug dealers. I listened to some Fito Olivares. He's pretty much the god of Mexican saxophone. I guess. What's it called? I saw Gilberto, and he showed me a little clip of what's it called? He does gigs and he plays Spanish music a lot, and he showed me somebody improvising on a cumbia, and I was like, wow, he was so good. So that's why I decided to go home, play La Gallina, and put it on Facebook. And so just, I'm just a beaner that can't really even be a beaner. That's what I've been doing. So that's it. That's me. Thanks for asking.
So, question on that. It's interesting. First of all, it's hilarious that you're like the token Hispanic guy. And I say that with all racial sensitivity in mind, I think. But every week you're like, you don't know what this is because I'm speaking Spanish. And I'm like, you're right. I don't. I have no idea what we're talking about. But, so...
You know what a gallina is?
I have no idea. You could be cussing on my stream right now, and I have no idea. You could be talking about the most vulgar thing on the planet, and I have no idea.
Okay.
But it raises this question. So, do you listen to this type of music? Well, why do you listen to this type of music?
Well,
Is it culturally because, your parents, you grew up in an environment listening to Spanish culture music? Or how does this happen? Because it's not like I'm listening to Swedish music or something, right? Brain's not listening to what are you Danish or something? Danish music or whatever.
Yeah, what are you? Oh, do I answer now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll answer. Because it sounds so good. When you sing it in Spanish, you can actually feel it, and that's why it's just it feels like, I guess, more emotion, I think, than if it's music in English, in my opinion.
Oh, interesting.
I agree. I agree. I listen to music in Spanish because I feel like
Makes me sad.
it's almost like more colors are thrown at you
Yeah.
because of the language that is spoken. versus in English. Like whenever I listen to music in English, it feels like colder, like harder, if that makes any sense. And when you listen to music in Spanish, it feels like warmer, like somebody's embracing you, which is interesting. But now I absolutely hate that kind of music that Jonathan listens to, because I grew up with it. Literally everybody listens to it, and I'm just extremely sick of it.
That makes
So,
sense.
but I always still wanted to get that sort of Spanish language element in the music that I missed.
But
So
not be cumbia.
that's how I discovered flamenco, because
Oh,
I
okay.
still got that sense of like, hey, they're speaking in this language, but it's not Mexican music.
Yeah. I don't know. I never got tired of it. I never got tired of even listening to like bachata or duelo. It's like, it just like, if I listen to it too much, then I'm like, fuck it. That's too much. I need to go listen to something else. But, it's all in moderation. You know, that's it.
I feel
I
like this
think.
is a whole world of music that I wouldn't actually be able to ever differentiate. Because I just didn't, like, I never grew. I mean, there were always the kids on the high school bus blaring their Hispanic rap or whatever, right? And I'm like, I don't know. At the time, I didn't like any rap. So whatever.
Yeah,
And then this music, I'm like, this is a whole world. Like,
it
these people are
is.
so far from me and mental state and like everything that I'm like, I don't even know. I don't think we'll ever communicate.
That's not true. But let's just go ahead and transition.
Okay. Thanks for the input. Excellent.
No, that's not what I didn't mean it in a bad way. I just meant like Brian's not even paying attention anymore.
Yeah, he is.
I am, but we're still in the what did you listen to? We haven't even gotten to what did you work on, right? So I'm pacing myself here, having coffee, right?
Let's wait. What did
Okay.
you listen to these past 2
Let's
weeks?
move through it. Yep.
Crap load of classic rock, man.
Oh yeah.
Because I had a gig last week, I had a gig this week, and it's just like cover tunes, 90s stuff, 80s classic rock, a lot of Creedence Clearwater Revival,
Nice.
a lot of stuff like that, man. And I've just been practicing like cajon and stuff. So I guess this is what I could shoot for. What did you practice this week? I guess cajon, guitar and stuff like that. Just jamming along to those kind of tunes, and because people would send me like lists and stuff of like, hey, this is what we're sort of gonna play, and then the rest I was just like trying to find playlists on YouTube of like, because I don't really listen to classic rock too much. Again, I thought, and it's sort of, I can't really differentiate songs too well. They all, you got your unique ones that stand out, but in general, it's got that same 4/4 pocket,
Mhm.
which is fun to play though.
Mhm.
What did you listen to this week?
Me? People might get upset about this. I mean, I listen to standard, like, whatever, fun music, but I listen to Christmas music. And here's the thing, though. I know, some people are like, are you for real? It's October. Here's the thing, though. I have a rule for myself on Christmas music. I love Christmas, and I love listening to Christmas music, but I have this playlist that we created for our wedding, which was like a Christmas wedding playlist, whatever. And it has a lot of music on there that is Christmas music that doesn't come on the radio. And so my rule is that any standards that come on the radio, I cannot listen to until it's actually Christmas season. So like, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch, right? Except they don't flip the R
No,
because they're
I've
not
never heard that
classical
one before.
singers.
I don't know that song.
Yeah, but
Grinch.
so yeah, Grinch. So they chew that R. So the idea is that I don't listen to the stuff that's on the radio. I listen to, like straight no chaser versions of Christmas music and stuff. To ease myself in and not cheat myself out of the holiday music.
All jazz is Christmas music, so
Pretty much.
Except
Yeah.
Bebop, because Bebop sucks.
Okay.
No, but okay.
So Josue, is that your work right now? You're working by doing covers and doing cover gigs?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not my work. I still got my work, my regular 3
Oh yeah,
jobs.
but I'm jealous. I used to know a guy that used to hire me, but he doesn't call anymore.
Oh,
Probably because you stopped
But
practicing.
oof.
yeah, it's because I stopped answering. but
Oh. Okay. Oof.
Yikes.
whatever. Anyways, what do we go to topics or we ask what we
Brain,
worked
what did
on?
you work on this week?
I worked on the music for a musical called Bye Bye Birdie.
Cool.
And it's very fun, but it has to be right. And for those of you who don't know, Bye Bye Birdie, one of the main characters, Conrad, plays guitar. And there's parts written in my music where it's like, play terribly, play poorly, right? Because he's not supposed to be that good, you know. And there's also parts where he's playing and I have to be right on time, you know. So a lot of that.
So which one do you do when?
Huh?
I was just trying to nothing bad joke.
All right. What about you, Jacob?
I thought that was super cool. What have I been working on this week? So 2 things, 2 weeks, right? I've already told you guys about this, but I finished my choral composition. It's called Ex Nihilo. Here it is. It's for choir, piano, double bass, and cello. And it's got a lot of cool. It's
Bro,
got like
that
modern
means a bad
techniques
thing
and
in
stuff in it.
Spanish. That's a cuss word in Spanish.
Is it?
No, but would you know?
Uh, It's it's Latin for out of nothing, and the Latin phrase in general is creatio ex nihilo, which refers to the beginning of existence, right? It's creation out of nothing, referring to when God spoke and existence began. But so I finished that, and that took so much time, which is why I was exhausted last week and couldn't do it. But funny story, the rest of the week I was really, really, really preparing my vocal rep because I was like, okay, we basically UTA does this, and no other school seems to do this. But there's midterm juries here for vocal students where it's basically like check yourself, because if you don't know, vocalists have to memorize all their music. Instrumentalists don't. Instrumentalists can read their music. Vocalists have to memorize everything. And so the idea is that by the end, they're like, yeah, you can't memorize 6 pieces of music, especially if they're like long arias or something, in 2 weeks. So we have a midterm jury where you have to have half your music prepared and memorized, and they'll select one at random for you to sing. And so it's like, okay, midterm jury, gotta prepare for this. Got it, totally memorized. 3 different pieces memorized, feeling good about all of them, feeling vocally warmed up. Go to the jury. They select the one that I was a little more nervous about, and because I have terrible stage fright, and I'm just like, I don't want to accept that I'm not a performer, but I really don't think I'm a performer. I had a memory slip on a midterm jury and just flubbed it hard. And I like caught myself in the end, and I was like, okay, well, I got the words now, but I missed words on like 2 or 3 whole lines or something, and it was miserable. But yeah, so I mean, I was working on that, and then I flubbed that jury, and then I was like, I'm gonna take the weekend off because I've stressed out so much about this. That's what I've done.
That kind of sounds like what I would watch on American Idol growing up. Because
Okay.
like a direct parallel.
Fun
Wait.
fact. Okay, go Josue. Never mind.
No, fun fact. I like fun fact.
Okay, fun fact first. I don't know if you guys ever watched. I mean, you did watch American Idol, but on American Idol a long time ago, there was a guy who sang the Jigglypuff song from Pokemon. It's like he sang it way in his high register. And he's like, Jigglypuff, right? That guy is actually an amazing singer, and he did it like as a joke, and he's in my choir here at UTA.
No.
And he's like,
Wow.
he's a tenor, and he's phenomenal. But he did the Jigglypuff thing like as a joke, and it's awesome.
No way, dude.
In
Yeah.
television? Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, he's
This
famous.
guy's
Drop his name or drop a, I don't know, an alias for him, I guess. Or something.
No, you can just YouTube
his
it,
name.
Jigglypuff American
Okay.
Idol, and it'll come up.
we should go do Clefairy on The Voice. Fairy, fairy. No, just me. No, just did that in front of-
I don't know
I did
that
that in
song.
the university.
No.
It was so
Is that like the Bulbasaur song when they're all just like soar, soar, soar?
This is too weeb. Let's transition.
Okay. We can transition. So yeah, Flub my jury. Had to get that out there. Fun.
Good job.
Who was next? Jonathan. What did you work on this
Jonathan.
week?
I guess if I said I had to work on, it's just technically how in cumbia, like you have to play like the notes super short, I guess. And I just was working on that while I was trying to make sure I could play a little thing that I want to record. So just like playing shorter. That's all I really worked on. And I guess bending notes can be kind of hard because I suck and I don't practice enough. But playing shorter and bending, that's all I really worked on.
What is bending on like on a sax like? How do you do
Like
it?
like you know when you scoop a note.
I know what a bend is, Jonathan. I meant how do you do it on a saxophone?
It's the
Okay.
embouchure.
Oh,
Well, there's
okay.
two different ways. You can do it with your hand, where like you slowly raise a key, so that way it'll slowly come to the next pitch.
That was cool.
Which I'm gonna sound super snobby right now, but I'm be like, that's the clean one. That's the one where you can just make it like super nice, you know. But if you do it with your embouchure, it's I think it takes a lot more skill than if you do it with your hand, right?
Hmm.
You know, it's a lot more of a challenge.
Do you remember when our sax teacher, I don't know if he showed you this, but I remember I specifically asked him if he could do it, and then he played it for me. He did the clarinet intro to Rhapsody in Blue on the sax. Like he just went, like he did that bend, and my mind
No.
exploded. And it was like 8 a.m, and I literally could not handle the rest of the day after what I heard. Did he ever show you that?
I think I know Tobin could do it. He showed me some cool shit. Fuck.
Don't.
No bit.
Sorry,
No,
but like it's just that one guy, he's very good at playing the saxophone.
I think that one was a combination of the two. He told me, he's like, I'm sort of opening the keys, but then I'm also slightly.
Hmm.
That just seems like a ridiculous level
Yeah.
of
In all honesty,
being able to control that.
I should really get a teacher, but it's just like I'm stubborn as fuck, so I haven't. Like I think if I got a teacher, it would help me so much, and I would have weekly assignments. But I'm just stubborn as fuck.
I mean, you should get a teacher. You're just
You
gonna
should
be
get a
stuck.
teacher.
I have many teachers, thanks. But I would agree you should get a teacher. Otherwise, you're gonna be stuck, right?
Whatever.
I asked about the bend because I'm in woodwind methods right now, and we just finished flute. And forget flute, dude. Embouchure on flute is ridiculous, and the fact that they're like, for those of you who don't know, flute is so whack. It's like, in order to jump the octave, you have to send like cold air or something that's slow or something, and then it's like, or warm hot air, and it's like, I didn't even know my mouth could produce two different temperatures of air. I thought they were all warm air, right? Because my body is warm. And then it's like, nah. So you have to like change the temperature of your air and change the speed and stuff. But anyway, we skipped on flute, and now I'm onto clarinet. And that's a beast. I imagine it's more similar to saxophone, and like the like even just the positioning of the mouthpiece, where how much it is in your mouth can determine if you're like super sharp or flat or something. And I was like, man, there's so many details going on with your breast support.
You have a
and everything.
flute, Josue?
Actually, the flute's more like the sax in terms of like the keys.
Oh, you
Oh,
think?
yes.
That's interesting.
I don't know how to.
You
don't know
literally
what it
just
is.
played it better than I could play it all semester.
Yeah, this is hard.
It's a hard instrument. I still have my flute, but
4 out
I'm
of 10
terrible.
would not recommend.
Yeah, no.
So.
We can
who's
move on
next?
to topics. I just wanted to
4
talk
out
about
of
that.
10.
just want to talk about that.
Okay. Okay. Who wants to go?
All right.
Who wants to go first?
Someone today is going to go first. And it's not going to be me.
And it's not going
And
to
it's
be
going to
me.
be someone with longer hair than me. So, here we go.
That-
Drum roll.
That's either Josue
Now
or me.
introducing with the first topic of the day. Drum roll, please. Jacob.
Oh, that's pointing to me. Yeah.
You
Yikes. Okay, a
Thanks,
bunch of
Jacob.
pressure on me. We putting me first. That sucks because my topics this week are not that good. I have sort of too many topics.
Good.
So, let me think actually. Which one? How should I order these?
Nice and brief.
Just
I
do
don't
it.
need to hear your life
Just
story.
do it. Look at
Okay.
that little tiny cup.
Okay, I'll do this way first. So it's more of a question and a discussion to you guys because, so as people know, I'm doing this whole grad school thing, and one
Yeah.
of the things that you do for grad school is you don't just have to write essays. Some of them require you a statement of purpose, which is not a career statement of purpose. That's a why do you do what you do kind of thing. And it's interesting because I mean I think I know why I do what I do, but in the end there's a lot more like depth to the answers here, especially with musicianship. And so I wanted to ask you guys, and then I'll answer in the end. But I wanted to go around the circle and ask you guys, why do you do music? Why do you do the specific type of music that you do? What is
the
your
fuck?
purpose? What is your end
You
goal
literally
here
took my topic.
with all of this?
That's so close to my topic too. Actually.
That's so fucking exactly my topic.
Oh yeah, that was my topic. Oh yep, I'm sure it
All right.
was.
You're such an
That was
asshole.
exactly it. All right.
All right, brain. So why do you do what you do? Why do you do music? Why do
I
you do
it
guitar?
very simply because it challenges me, and it's something I can continually work at, and I can make money with it, and I have no reason to quit it. It brings me a lot of joy, and
Sex.
yeah, it's very practical, actually, very simple.
See, but
Not
So
the
wait, you did have
guitar,
sex with somebody.
but my relationship with it, because it just naturally fills in so many gaps that I would need to fill professionally and interpersonally, and it's just conveniently been there for all of that. And I'll put it down when it doesn't serve that purpose.
So that's an answer that you've given on the show before for some other question that I'm sure was very similar. But I guess what I'm looking for is so if you had to write a statement of purpose for grad school as a musician, or as a music ed major, or a composer, or a performer, or a jazz musician, or whatever, what is your purpose there? Like, what is your end all goal? Like, do you do it for other people? Do you do it for yourself? What is the overall, like, I mean, it's almost like a, what is that French term? Raison d'être or something, which is like your reason for existence, right? What is your reason for existence as a musician, right? Why do you do this?
Yeah, I knew it was a much broader question. And that, or topic, right? Those are supposed to be kind of philosophical and impactful things you say, right? In the language you should use, and it should be very flowery and emotionally evocative language, right? I've never liked doing that kind of thing, but my purpose is simply to satisfy myself, and the guitar satisfies me in so many ways.
That's so interesting. That explains so many things.
Okay, do you want me to go?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Um, like I said, I'm doing math, so this doesn't apply to me. Next. I'm
That's
just joking.
no.
Can you ask me the question again so I can have like the pressure again?
So if someone asked you if you when you were going into music, or someone asking you to hire you for a job or a school or whatever, what is your overall purpose for doing music? Right? You may have started like playing your horn in middle school or something because you needed an art credit and they put you on saxophone because your mouth shape fit the saxophone very well or something like that.
No.
Or they needed saxophones for the band, which is never a thing. They never need more saxophones. But what continues you on aside from, like, you know, there's the small things of I want to get better and this and that, but why do you want to get better?
Okay.
Why do you want to play this music?
Let me answer it. Oh, okay. Well, okay. I'll just give you a very more specific and literal answer instead of the philosophical one. It's really, I can remember 2 points in my life. One was like middle school and like freshman year, where it was kind of like I wasn't really like succeeding, and I kind of like it was like pretty much I failed in trying to get a girl, and I kind of like felt emotional about it. So I was like, let me do music, and usually it's because of it's always been because of my failure. Like I messed up something in life, so now I'm gonna go play my instrument, and it's kind of like, let me just imagine I can give emotions to something else, and I give it to. It used to be whenever I would have to play my etudes for region band. I used to be like, let me just imagine I'm playing for this person or some gay shit like that. So that was like freshman year and shit. And then can you hear me? Nobody's saying anything. Oh, okay. And then the next point in my life was about 2 years after high school, whenever I got out of a long-term relationship. And it was I was trying to get back in it because I remember that she was impressed that I played, and I had totally stopped playing. So again, it was because of a girl that I started playing my instrument, and I kind of still play it now, not because of that, but just because I love it. Now it's just because I love it, but it always started because I was kind of like, I guess, bummed out with myself.
We got to get you a girl.
That was back then.
Practicing.
That was back then.
Big
dude.
time.
Fuck all y'all.
No,
want
I
my
think
answer?
I
gave
think
it to
we
you.
I think we don't get him one because then he stops playing sax, right? Once he's comfortable, he's not gonna practice anymore.
That's
Can-
what happens.
Can you? Okay. Fuck
So
all
we need
y'all.
to get him to almost get the girl for as
Yeah,
long as possible.
Just a constant in and out of just
A constant blue
hard
ball.
wrench.
A constant blue ball.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah. So there's my answer.
No,
More
it's a good,
entertaining.
that's a good answer. I mean, like, whatever. It's so stupid. So many people are like, I'm a guy, how dare I talk about my emotions? And I'm like, shut up. If you're a musician, you're an emotional human being. Period. Sorry. Unless you're,
I
well,
bleed for
no,
my-
all of them do.
I bleed too.
That's right.
Awesome.
Hashtag me too.
Unless you play oboe.
True. No one cares about oboe.
Okay,
Those
go
people are
on.
robots. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a huge reason a lot of people do, and I expected that answer, at least from one person, was, well, it's the expression, right? It's not just, for some people it's a creative outlet, right? And then for some people, it's really, I have all these emotions and I have nowhere to put them. So I'm going to put them somewhere else through this, I guess through this creative
Right.
outlet, right? It's like a
wait,
machine. You
let
put
me
the
let me rewind.
okay, rewind.
Oh, because Josue, actually, that's a really good point. That would work on me again, because it was after, whenever you saw me in the practice room nonstop, it was because I was like going through that after you out of a relationship and it hurts and shit. That's why I was always in the practice room. But then it was kind of like ambient because I was starting to feel like it's whatever, I don't give a shit. And I guess that's when I decided I would go do math.
Oh.
But maybe, but I mean, what next person?
No, I mean I'm tagging on that because I am kind of the same way, or I was. Now I'm happily married and stuff, but I was certainly the same way for a while, and like that kind of, I guess, longing or desire to look better and be better and have a better image and stuff definitely caused me to practice way more, like way more. And finally, I think I've gotten into a place where I don't need the emotional, like anything emotional. Actually, I'm not an emotional composer, turns out, and I don't need any of that emotional connection to music to actively produce what I'm supposed to produce, which, from a composition major perspective, that's what we want, right? Because if someone asks us to produce something, we can't be like, oh yes, you want something sad, let me think about my dog dying. And like, you don't got time for that. You got like maybe a week or two turnaround time, and it's like, just produce it, right? So emotional connection's gone. But that was me in the beginning too. I remember being in the practice room for like 4 hours and stuff on bass, right? Because of that kind of unacceptedness and stuff. I don't think that's a word.
Okay, ask Josue.
This way.
Uh-huh.
What would you say your purpose is?
Was that the full question? Can you ask it again?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that wasn't
so
that sexy.
I mean, it's so interesting because I don't feel like either Brain or Jonathan really fully answered the question, because I think it's on a much larger scale. But so if you were asked for a job or grad school or undergrad school or whatever, what your statement of purpose is, not career-wise, not what your purpose is career-wise as a musician, but like, what is your purpose with everything that you do? What is your reason for existence as a musician as opposed to everything else? What is your answer to that?
Money.
That would not get you the job.
I feel like I was selected to play music,
Interesting.
if that makes any sense. Because there's like old VHS video of me, like 1 year old. I could barely walk, but I was picking up two sticks and playing in rhythm to whatever music that they were playing, probably corridos, you know. And for as long as I can remember, there's just, I know I've always wanted to do that. And it always felt really natural to just, I don't know, express yourself creatively. Like I remember when I was 6, I was just begging and begging and begging for a drum set. I didn't even know what they looked like. Like I was just like, I want one of that thing that makes that sound, that noise, whatever I heard. Like I remember when I first saw the first drum set ever, like it just had such a huge impact on me. I think it was like at a friggin', it might have been a Mexican band, honestly, like at a mi tienda or like at a fiesta or something. And they were just like gigging there, and I remember I was just like in awe of the drum set and whoever's playing the drums. And I don't know, I felt such a connection to that instrument. Um, I don't know. I'm not answering the question.
Uh,
Let him think.
I don't know, man. Like I feel like I'm a very emotional person too. Whenever you just write, you let some of that out, and you feel better.
True.
I love that answer. I love you.
True.
Jacob.
I don't know,
Jacob.
this is a
True.
tough question. I'm
Well,
not sure what kind of answer you're looking for.
So maybe you have, maybe all of you might have something more to add once I say this, but and I'm not saying that anybody's answer is better than anybody else's. And here comes all the jokes about, Jacob's answer. He prepared this question so he could look cool or something. Whatever. Shut up.
I have no viewers.
So I know. That's funny. So I would say this. So music to me, I'm with you that I've always been able to like playing music helps you. It helps you express and deal with the emotions that are super intense while you're like a teenager and stuff. And as you grow older, the emotions I think start to fade away a little bit, at least. For me, they have at least. I'm a robot now. That's why I'm a theorist. But one of the biggest things I think I realized is that music helped me as a person learn and develop in ways that the rest of the world was not teaching me. And not playing necessarily, but I mean listening to music. Other artists helped develop me emotionally and spiritually and intellectually, with the music, but also with the lyrics, which is probably why I'm so interested in vocal music. But with the lyrics and stuff, to a point where I'm like, okay, this helped me so much grow into the person that I'm supposed to be, or that I think I'm supposed to be, and help me define and figure out who I am, right? That I'm like, I need to do this. I need to recognize that there are other people out there who feel the same way that I felt, the same people who are alone and depressed and, harming themselves and doing whatever, or can't decide spiritually what they believe, or feel oppressed by the people around them, or whatever. I'm like, I was one of those people. And music helped me solidify who I am and, sort of get out of that situation. Now, truth be told, I give credit to God for healing of that and everything. But music really helps, and the lyrics really helped with that. And I'm like, I need to do this for other people. This needs to carry on, right? Because other people, because music is such an emotional thing. Obviously, we know it's an emotional thing. Two of you both said you use it for like emotional expression, right? So when other people hear music, they get the emotional expression, right? And they relate to it. And it's that connection between the listener and the artist of, oh, you feel the same way I do. And you think the same things I think. And we're like, I'm glad to know I'm not alone here thinking this, right? And I'm glad to know I'm not alone feeling this, right? And so a big purpose for me from the beginning, I constantly feel like currently I'm still working and developing my voice and my character. And actually, funny enough, Ex Nihilo is the first composition of mine that I felt really stands on its own as a piece worth recognizing as one of my end goals, right? If that makes sense. It probably doesn't. But I feel like I'm not educated enough to the point where I can do this yet, where I can help people with the music that I'm trying to create, right? But that is almost certainly a goal. And I mean, no one gets into music for the money. That's it's just as simple as that. And I've never wanted to get into music for the money. The money's basically not there. Now, I'm living pretty comfortably from the music from money right now, but it's not for that purpose. My purpose is for something that I feel is much greater and much larger, and that is to help other people, because other people, I know when I was going through stuff, I didn't know anybody else who was going through the same stuff that I was going through. But the music on my iPod was people going through the same stuff I was going through, right? And so that I feel like that needs to continue. And so that's a big purpose for doing the music that I do. And I wanted to read this quote because I think I agree with this 100%. And I think this is basically my purpose too. Because as you guys know, I'm a Christian and I'm big on my faith. And it's a big purpose in my life. And on all my scores, I try to write on my bio, my purpose is to bring glory to God. And that is my goal, because I don't think I am where I am. I don't think I would ever be where I am without God, because I am not a naturally born talented musician. Certainly not. And I was never that person. I wasn't like Josue drumming at a young age. I picked up electric bass at age 15 and couldn't hear the difference between a major second and a minor second until I was like 21 years old or something, right? So no, I don't have natural ability as a musician. But so I give God all the credit for that. And there's this quote by Bach, which is basically exactly what I believe, I think. And he says, for those of you who don't know, Bach was one of the composers that we know to be a very religious person. He worked in the church for his whole career, and we give credit for him for all polyphony and all kinds of crazy stuff that he did. But he was a very religious man. And he has this quote that says, "The aim and final end of all music should be none other than the glory of God and the refreshment of the soul." And I think that's it. I think that's my purpose. I think any music that I write should be to bring glory to God or to help other people in their struggles. Yeah, that's my answer.
I feel like where at least I've been in most of my life is refreshment to the soul, my soul.
Mm.
I think so. Just because I never really had many friends growing up, so literally my companions were the guitar, the drum set. Right?
Right.
That's all I had. And it's sort of okay, so contrary to popular belief, I've never done drugs or anything like that. But I imagine the fact that I continue picking stuff up is to get this musical high all the time. And he's calling me a liar, and of course, because he doesn't really know me. But you know, I'm just addicted to, like, I hear a group, and I'm just like, why does that have to end? I don't want it to end. It feels really good, right? Or certain things, you know, you're just playing, and you know, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like it transcends my soul, right? And I always want to be at that point, right? So I guess I'm sort of addicted to that, which is why I might continue doing it. And whenever I would also write stuff, I would put it out because I was like, okay, I'd love for other people to hear it. But then now I'm just like, no, I've got so much stuff that I don't even want to share with anybody. I just want to keep it for myself, like self-therapy kind of music, you know. I don't know if I should care more to share this with other people, and I would love to share it with other people, but the fact is, if there's not much of an audience, I'm gonna do it for me anyway.
Cool.
That makes total
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, that's interesting. It's so funny. We just heard the quote differently, right? I've never thought of that quote as refreshment of my own soul. I always think of it as for others, right? And that's such an interesting point. And I wonder if, like, I tell people all the time, like, like you guys ask me what I've been listening to this weekend. It's like I don't actually listen to music. Like, it's I probably spend maybe an hour max actually listening to other music on a weekly basis or something.
Whoa, that's it?
Dude, I don't listen to music. And that probably has to do with like what we're getting from it, right? Like you're saying refreshment of your own soul, and you hear a groove and stuff, and you're like, why does that have to stop? And it's awesome for you, right? I'm like, I don't really get that anymore. Maybe my listening emotional impact and stuff days are kind of gone or something. I don't know, but I don't know. It's just interesting.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Maybe I'll listen to more music eventually. And maybe I'll need that refreshment of the soul of my own eventually. I don't feel like nowadays I get that though. Very few music. Actually,
Well,
go ahead.
you're happily married. The rest of us are miserable.
That's actually so. Brain, by the way, you're echoing. Brain, you're
We
echoing.
need this.
But no, yeah, that's actually a real thing. Once I got married,
You're too happy.
I am stably happy. That's definitely true.
Good, man.
There's not like sad days, that's for sure. I mean, it sucked when I flubbed my jury. That felt pretty bad. But then I had that conversation with y'all about it. That I think I justified it in my own mind. But no, that's a fair point. But it is few and far between these days that I find music that interests me even to listen to. And then music that hits me emotionally is like, I haven't found a new artist that hits me emotionally at least like 2 years or something. Anyway.
Dang.
Well, the problem might not be them.
Oh, I know. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a problem, right? We're just talking. I don't know if it's actually a problem, right? So that was one of my topics, but that was meaty enough to where I think we can move on to another topic, and I'll save my other one for later.
Josue, give it a shot.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly. Fill up on coffee.
So, whenever you guys made the choice to become music majors or musicians, etc., to follow your purpose or whatever, how did your family react to this? Was it met positively, or was it met negatively, or a little bit of both? What happened? Brain, why don't you start?
Well, I got into music with my father and my mother, who always played great records, and we went to concerts and stuff. And from a very early age, I was always exposed to music. And so I wanted to do it so I could play the songs that were by my parents' favorite artists. And when I finally got a guitar, all I played was Clapton, and that kind of thing. So they were very supportive because I was only really engrossed in their music and I was playing it all. Now, had it been like, I'll say this, when I got into the breakdown metal phase, they weren't quite so interested. It was more the keep that down, shut your door, go to sleep,
Right.
Don't stay up too late.
Right.
What about you, Jacob?
Um, yeah, so I don't come from a family of musicians. And I know a lot of people in music school do, or they've had some musical background or something. Not my family at all. There's no lineage of musicianship in my family as far as I'm aware. Like literally none.
You
Um,
guys are sailors, right?
my dad is a sailor. This is true. Yeah,
Right?
my dad is a sailor, and my mom teaches special education. And then my mom's family on her side is into they own a bunch of houses, and they rent out houses. And then my dad's side, oh my gosh, I actually don't know what the jobs were on my dad's side. Doesn't matter. My dad is a sailor, but also a geologist. Is his like actual career. Um, but so I don't come from a family of musicians, and I am the youngest of 6 kids, none of whom are musicians. The only musicianship in the family was middle school. I need an art credit, so I'm gonna pick up clarinet, or I'm gonna pick up violin, or whatever, right? And then one of my sisters like sang in the church or whatever, but there's no history of musicianship in my family. However, basically, I wasn't doing anything else. So I started playing bass when I was like 15, and I played in some punk bands or some bands. I don't even know what you call them anymore. High school band stuff. Um, and then out of high school, I didn't go to college. Remember, I actually took a 2 or 3 year break. I guess like 2.5 or something. Year break. And I delivered pizzas. And I lived at my mom's house delivering pizzas, making bank, and basically doing nothing except doing that. And that was, I guess, acceptable because there are people in my family, older siblings, who also only were doing low level job positions like that, and still to this day don't really have high level positions anywhere and don't have degrees and stuff like that. I was like, okay, well, I'm just another one in the train or the series or whatever. And then I wrote my electronic album. And then I decided I wanted to go to college for music. And people were like, okay, wow, he's going to college. That's cool. Might as well try it because he wasn't doing anything else, right? I do remember one moment specifically when I had asked, I think I had asked my dad for a little bit of extra money because I was paying for some of college out of my own pocket. And then I had asked my dad for a little bit of money to help me out. And I remember him saying, like, what are you going to do with a music degree? Teach? And then I was like, well, there's actually a whole lot of options. You can do all this and this and this and blah, 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 blah. Teaching is the safe option. And I did a whole explanation. But that was the only, like, I guess, even tiny resistance to it was that question. But everything else was, oh, he's in college. And then suddenly I got an associate's degree. And I was like, wow, he actually has a degree of some kind. And then I'm about to get a bachelor's. And it's like, ah, well, it's better than not having any degree at all, right? So there's no resistance other than I'm sure they hated me when I first started learning to sing, and I would like practice in my closet, right? And I was singing like baritone sailor songs, but like basically shouting them because I didn't know how to sing, right? So I'm just like, I'm not gonna do it here into the mic, but basically, you know, just really shouty and staccato when, you know, like I'm sure they did not appreciate that because I have a very large voice.
Give to me the life.
Let the live go by me. Yeah, that's not a sailor song though.
Is it? Oh my God.
No, that's the Vagabond,
Malcolm.
which is like about
That's
going on a
awesome.
journey and to preach the gospel. I think that's what that's about actually. Um, but yeah, so I didn't really face any resistance. In fact, I've actually had support, a lot of support from friends and stuff, people who have been like, you're gonna be the one that actually does something with music. Even though the other people were like gigging and stuff, people like, I guess, and I'm not saying this egotistically or whatever, but I remember people telling me, being like, you're actually a serious musician and are going to do something with this. And I just kind of had support for it. And I was like, all right, well. And I am so thankful for that support. Support for a creative endeavor is huge.
Jonathan, what about you?
Oh, I don't know. I took a step away. What's going on?
So, whenever you went to school for music, or like if you've ever been passionate about playing music or stuff, were you met with support from your family, or what was the experience like? Did you have positive or like negative from your family or stuff?
I'm gonna be just plain Jane. It's like neutral. It didn't matter. It just was like, as long as you're in school, junior, then you can go ahead and do whatever.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, no, I can't remember any support other than, I made friends in music school, and
No, you
they
didn't.
always they had like words of support. You know what I mean? That's it.
They said words.
Yeah. So like, yeah, you can ask me. Yeah, that's it.
Dang, so I feel like you guys are all extremely lucky, because even until now, it's always been resistant from especially my dad around here. Like, nobody ever thought that music was ever a viable career path. See, the thing is, I love my cousins. They set the bar so high. I'm kind of like in the middle range in terms of like all our family. I think one of my cousins became like an engineer, or the other one became like a teacher. Another one works like drafting or something like that. Another wanted to be like an architect. Another one's like a mechanic or something. And like they're all like, they went to school and they're really intelligent and stuff. I got another cousin that's becoming like a petrochemical engineer, something like that. She's studying at UT Austin and stuff like that. And then they were just like, why aren't you doing anything like that? For as long as I can remember, my family's always been, why aren't you doing something like your cousin this one, or like this one? See how they're doing. Why aren't you doing something like that? Why do you want to do music? Why do you want to do art? And I was like, because it's what I'm passionate about. It's what I love to do. And it was always so. It affected me so much that I, like in school, they made I used to be in marching band. They made me quit band. And so what I ended up doing, I was sort of lost, and I did like an engineering class in high school, and I didn't like it. So eventually I found like photojournalism and then AV tech, and I was like, okay, this is cool. This is kind of techie. And it was sort of met with support from my parents, because they're like, okay, he's like on the computer. And they equate with knowing computer skills to being intelligent, to being smart. So they were like, yeah, go to school for that or whatever, And then that didn't really go through. And then I switched back to music. And that's when like those met with resistance again. It's like, you can't do anything with that. So it sort of stopped for a little while when I ended up getting, hired at 2 places to be an instructor. And then suddenly, I'm making, I'm not working as many hours, but I'm basically making the same that my dad is making right now. And he's been working at the power plants for 30 years. And that sort of scared him. And he was really surprised that, why am I hearing echo?
Brain.
That's what it is.
I didn't do anything.
That's the problem.
But yeah.
Did I
yeah,
do
that
something?
was sort of like surprising. That's like, oh, okay, whoa, where did all this come from? And I was like, well, music. Remember, you didn't think I could ever do anything with it, and it turns out I can. But yeah, even then, I still get asked. So it's like, when are you gonna get something with benefits, or when are you gonna get something like this? And then it's like, I'm like, dude, just leave me alone. So that's partly why I'm moving to Austin too, to get away from all this kind of like negative energy around here, where it's like I've never really tapped into my full potential of what I can do with this, and I feel like moving away out of here is a step in the right direction for myself, anyway.
So,
Anyway, that's cool.
so it's so interesting that you say you haven't tapped into your full potential, because I mean, I think I speak for all of us when I say you're clearly like a super talented musician, and you have, I hate to say natural gifts because I don't believe in natural gifts, but you got natural groove, that's for sure. And I don't know if you're necessarily meant to do this or called to do this or whatever, but you certainly have the ability. And you've shown that you have the ability, and you've shown that you can be successful musically even within restrictions and stuff. So, I mean, I would encourage the moving to Austin and unleashing your full potential for sure. I mean, it sucks that you see resistance, but truth is, there are some things people won't ever get. In the same way that your common man probably won't ever get computer programming and what it is a programmer really does, or anything like that, right? It's people understand blue collar work, people understand doctors, but people understand architects. But if you tell them you're a software engineer developing the next great Avid technology, they'll be like, "What are you doing?" You know, like, wow, get a real job. And it's like, you know, it's like, so.
You know, partly now that you mentioned that, and to go back to what we were talking about earlier, I feel like, here's the thing. The people that do support me are all those relatives, all those cousins, all those that have those high jobs that my parents wanted me to do. They're the ones that support me, and they're like, dude, you're doing such an awesome job, and they're always like commenting and congratulating me on like whatever I post or whatever, and they're like, you know, we're so proud of you and stuff. Because I feel like they're the ones that understand the emotional impact of music. My folks, I feel like maybe my dad does not. They don't see that value in, you know, we do this music to connect with people and stuff like that. To them, it's just like, oh, he's just fiddling around on the guitar.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's like that. Who was the person who did the speech at the Boston Conservatory of Music? Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, me neither.
I forget his name. I've quoted that before, and I've used that in like an essay and stuff before. But for those of you listening, there is a speech at the Boston Conservatory of Music. It's just so funny that someone's just casually walking by. A graduation speech or something. No, it wasn't Milton Babbitt. Let me just look this up real quick. So people can read this, because it's actually welcome address to the freshmen at the Boston Conservatory of Music, given by Carl Polnack, pianist and director of music division at Boston Conservatory. You can actually just Google that, and it is basically it is the statement about what you're saying about people not understanding the emotional impact and stuff. In this speech, if any listeners are feeling this way, this speech is like the look at our purpose, right? We have just as much purpose as a doctor. We have just as much and that, I don't mean to say that egotistically or anything, like, yeah, we're doctors and this and that, because we're not. We can't do brain surgery. That's a whole nother. We don't go to school for 8 years. Actually, you know what? That's a lie. A lot of generally in music, you have to be a doctor. You have to go to school for 10 years or whatever. So whatever.
Or even then, it probably takes you just as many years if you don't go to school to actually get to that level.
True.
Right?
True.
It's ridiculous.
You start younger too, I think. But yeah, and so I mean, we have just as much value, and I mean, that's not to say that other careers don't have as much value. Architects are awesome. They do a ton for us. I think architecture's super cool. Blue collar workers, of course, have a great purpose. We would not have our buildings without them. We would not have our French fries without them. We would not have our Taco Bell without these people. They have purpose. So anyway, that the speech doesn't talk about Taco Bell employees, but if y'all want to go read it,
But it
actually,
should.
I'm pretty sure Jonathan, you have not read this, and I would highly encourage it. I know the other two have read it because we read it in school, but yeah. Toit.
Is Jonathan wearing sunglasses?
I think
Inside?
they're
He
blue
is,
light
yes.
filter glasses, right?
Is he blind?
They're like tinted a little bit. It's pretty dark right here.
All right, so Brain or Jonathan, next topic. Yeah. Seems like
Oh,
Jonathan.
okay.
Jonathan, that's
Yeah. Okay. I mean, this is pretty terrible because I think what I wanted to ask was just along the lines, like, I can't remember.
Jacob's topic?
Yeah, it was really similar. I think I wrote it down. Let me see what I wrote down. 1 second. Somebody put a dancing cat on the screen. Okay, I wrote. I put, how often do you think about where your music journey began, and where did your music journey begin? So it's kind of like Jacob.
you. Wait, read it again. I'm sorry.
We were all doing the Macarena. Nobody was.
Yeah, we were all doing the Macarena.
I wrote down, how often do you think about where your music journey began, and where did your music journey begin?
Oh yes, that's not the same. Does someone else want to start answering that, or I'll go ahead?
You can go.
Brain.
Okay. I
You're
can't hear you,
muted.
Brain. You're muted.
I said this before that I think you're gone, Jonathan. But I got into music, playing the music that my parents liked, and they were very supportive because of that. And I'm just lucky the music I liked was appropriate in their eyes. Because had they been of one ideology or another, or one nationality or another, I might not have come up the way I did, right? But I started playing along with the radio to the music they played.
That's pretty cool.
Jacob?
Did your parents buy you a guitar?
Yes, they did. Actually, for whatever reason, I will tell this a little bit. My parents separated, and I would go over to my dad's house every weekend, and he lived downtown with his new girlfriend that I think he was trying to impress with a nice apartment, right? Way downtown on Westheimer. And it was right by the Guitar Center on Westheimer. And every weekend I would walk over there, and I'd play the keys. I'd mess around with the bass, with the guitar, with the drums, but I kept going back to the guitar, and I would just pick guitars off the wall and try to do something with them. And I was probably 7 or 8 at the time. And the employees there were watching me do this, and they saw me even get some tab books out and try to learn some AC/DC. And I'll never forget this. I'm in Guitar Center. The guy who sold me my first guitar, his name was Brian. But about 3 weeks before he sold it to me, he came by, and while I was looking at tabs, he said, by the way, 0 means open, and 1 means 1. 2 means 2, so on and so forth, and a light went on. And very quickly I was putting together AC/DC songs, which are kind of all in A anyway. And they were 3-chord songs, and yeah, he kind of taught me how to read tab in that little nugget of information there. And before long, Christmas had come around, and he had whispered to my dad, hey, get this guy a guitar. He clearly loves it. He's here every weekend for hours and hours. You know, at the age of 8, I'm crossing busy Westheimer to get to this music store, right? On my own, walking there. So, yeah, eventually they did buy me a guitar, and it was a Strat pack with the tiny amp, tiny Stratocaster guitar. Yeah.
Those are so cute, man.
They really are. but they're terrible.
I love that guitar, like, that is the role of a good Guitar Center employee to me. I love that. Like, all he said to you was the smallest thing, and the whole world unlocked to you, right? Like, that was awesome.
It did. It did.
Do you still? Did you like reconnect with him? Do you know who he is? Were
No,
you like cool with any of them?
Eventually left. No, he eventually left, but I did sell that guitar to my first protege student.
Oh,
The
nice.
first student that ever really played well and was in need of an instrument badly. I sold it to him for like $50, and I put an upgraded neck on it, and it was going to have some longevity. And then I actually ended up selling him my Gibson guitar and a couple other instruments. And as he was graduating up, I was as well. And I was passing my instruments downward.
That's cute.
It is.
That was a good
How
What
often-
about y'all guys?
How often do you think about that journey? I guess is what Jonathan also asked. It's kind of a weird question.
I don't think about it often until I'm asked. But the other day, or not the other day, not long ago, I was back in Houston and I went to a barbecue restaurant with my mom. And we went in, we got our food to go. And as we're walking out, some employee holds the door open, some high school aged guy. And we're like, oh, thank you. And he's like, you don't remember me? And I look at him, and he's one of my ex-students who's now a high school kid with the thin, terrible mustache, and he's holding the door for me and my mom, and he's all grown up, and he still plays and stuff.
That's awesome.
And every student that I taught, and here's how I know I did something well. If I can say anything for myself, every student I worked with still plays, and well. They have stuck with it. They've kept learning because I gave them the tools to dig deeper if they hear something that they really like. How to find it, how to slow the YouTube down, just a multitude of different insider skills that if you really need to learn something, here's how to work it out.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
That's super cool. You are a music ed major.
I know it stinks.
Does anybody else want to answer it, or are we good?
Oh my gosh, Jonathan, it's
What
a
was the
whole
question
topic. I'll go ahead and then we'll go to Josue.
Do I re-say it or?
No, I got it. Yeah, so interestingly, so I actually started, so my first instrument, I guess if you will, was violin for 6th and 7th grade. And I didn't practice outside of the classroom. Yeah, dropped that real fast. As soon as I could, basically. And I was just not interested. It's so funny that I'm now a bass player, and I'm like, man, I should have started on double bass back then, right? Instead of picking violin. But, yeah, so that happened. But then I don't tell people this story very often because it's kind of like, I guess it's a little embarrassing or whatever, but I think it's true for a lot of people. Do y'all want to know how I started playing bass? It's because in 2009 or 2008, my brother and I would play Guitar Hero 3 together all the time. And my brother's older than me. And so anytime that we played games and stuff, I always played, you know, I was younger, so I was clearly worse at the game too. And so I was always put on either the rhythm guitar or the bass guitar when we were doing duets going through the game from beginning to end, right? And getting better and stuff. So I was put on rhythm guitar or bass every time. And I came to find out later, I'm just personality-wise, I am a bass player anyways, right? I don't think I would have been a lead guitar player ever because I'm just not that type of person, and it's the reason I still haven't learned how to really play guitar, is because, I mean, I have this analogy of, if you guys are nerdy enough, or if listeners are nerdy enough, of relating it to a role-playing game, like Dungeons & Dragons or anything like that, where I always play a support role. I'm always like a healer or something, or a tank or something that's needed. I'm never like a damage or the showy person or whatever, because that's just not what I am. I play what's needed. I fit a role, right? And so that's why I think bass fits me so well, is because I want to play the role that's needed. I don't care about getting attention or whatever. I'm just, I'm there to support the team more than anything. But so we were playing Guitar Hero 3 or whatever, and I kid you not, I probably mentioned the bass thing. Oh, wait, my brother got an electric guitar, like a little cheap one from a pawn shop or something, with this, like Brain said, this little terrible amp that had like it was actually a plug-in amp that was like this big, no cable. You plug it directly into the guitar and had a speaker, and you press a button to turn the distortion on and off. And so it's like clean to this tiny little speaker, and you press one button, and it's like, right? And it's just like full distortion, and it was so bad. It was so bad. But my brother got the guitar, and I was like, okay, well, I kind of want a bass, but I guess I mentioned it like once or twice maybe. I wasn't actually that interested, because in my heart, I'm really a nerd, and I play games and strategy games, and that's like another huge passion of mine, right? And then 2009 Christmas, I open up a giant Christmas present, and it's actually this bass right here. Was my first bass ever, and I put like ribbon on it and stuff because Sarah was playing it. I let Sarah use it in commerce and stuff. And it's a no name. It actually says Tiger up here, TY-GER. And it's like impossible to find this thing online. But this was my first bass. It's extremely neck heavy. The body's made out of like plywood or something, and the neck's like, I don't know, maple or something. So the whole thing is just like, all the time. Right?
Like a viola bass?
Yes, yeah. And
SG.
it sounds terrible. The action's huge. Like, it's so high. And I had a little crappy no-name amp that went with it as well. And this was my first bass. And, yeah, and I got it for Christmas. And then I didn't even really start practicing it that much. I remember, like, playing it, like, once or twice, learning, like 3 Days Grace songs or something, right? For like, I don't remember exactly when it started. I remember the first thing I learned. I don't know if you can hear.
Classic.
Right? And that's like the first bass line I ever learned. And it's not even a bass line, which is the funny part about it, right? And
Nope.
so there was that. And then in February of that year, I had just gotten this bass, could not even really play. Some kids at the high school that I was at were like, hey, play bass for our band because we need a bass player. And that's what started getting me practicing and trying to learn things. And that's my story. This random one-off comment or two-off comment that I want to play bass. And my mom bought me a bass and an amp. And now here I am, a senior music composition major. Because of Guitar Hero.
That's cool.
Hero.
What about you, Josue?
Can you
Oh,
repeat
he was
the question
one.
again?
When you started.
Oh, he told us already, didn't he? Because he had sticks and
Yeah.
he just started drumming around. Yeah.
Well, okay. That was when I was really little. When I started to get into like music was when I was 10 years old. And I guess my story is kind of embarrassing too.
Yeah.
There used to be a show. Okay, so I grew up with no cable, right? So it's like I had like PBS and stuff like that. There was this one show, I don't remember what channel it came on. It was called Sonic Underground.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was literally about, do you know about this?
Oh, yeah.
It was literally Sonic, and then he had like two siblings, and they all were in a band. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And they were just literally like shred. I think I learned to play the theme to that one time. It had like some ridiculous bends and stuff like that. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I was like, I want to play the drums. Because the little kit that I had gotten before was like a toy set. Like it broke after like a couple months. And then it's like, okay, yeah, we're not going to get you anything else. So I guess when I was like 7 or 8, I had like a baby drum set. But then afterwards, I was really serious and I kept begging and begging for like an instrument. And my parents finally got me a little drum set from like a pawn shop or something. And I was sort of with Kickstarter everything. And this time it kind of stuck. Afterwards, I joined band in middle school, like in 6th grade. I wanted to do drums, but they had too many drummers. And what sucks is like all those kids didn't care. They didn't practice. They didn't care about drumming. And I actually wanted to play drums, and I wasn't allowed. So they stuck me on saxophone, which sucked. No, it wasn't that bad. I played tenor.
Yeah,
And then
so
they switched me to bass.
you want to know a crazy fact about that? And I know, Jonathan, we'll get on to your beginner story in a second. But them sticking you on saxophone, so I've been learning, because I'm in these music education courses, which I don't want to be in, but I'm in them, or at least the one. Did you know that there's like really scummy practice in the music education world in middle schools where teachers will do things to try to force certain instruments on kids of what they need in their band and not necessarily what the kid wants to play, because they can't have 30 saxophones. And so if they're like, oh, we have too many saxophone players, so this next round of kids that we're going to bring in, we're going to make them use like size 4 reeds or whatever they are, right? To make it extremely difficult to play. So we'll say, oh, you're not very good at saxophone, because we gave them a setup that's really hard to play, so that they'll pick up like trombone or something, because we need trombones. Is that not super scummy?
Interesting.
That's like
kinda
a
shady,
real
yeah.
thing. People's permanent instruments get decided in middle school because of some people being like, my middle school band needs to sound good.
You know what though? I don't think that was the case technically for me, because I feel like that band director, he pushed me so much. He was like, actually, what we really needed was a tuba player, and I was like, I ain't carrying that big ass thing. I do not want to play a tuba. Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum.
So I mean, the next lowest instrument was a tenor sax. And, you know, I could hold that. So it's like a lower instrument. And then when I got a little bit bigger, they switched me to bari sax, which was kind of like the low end for the rest of the band. And it was just me. It was literally nobody else. And I feel like he knew that I was determined enough to study the drums on my own. And that's exactly what I did. So I ended up picking up, you know, how to read music, which eventually I forgot and I had to relearn again. But, you know,
Same.
I was picking up one thing and then I was practicing the drums for fun at home. So it's like, if I would have started playing drums sooner, I feel like I would have been way better off. But, you know, I feel like knowing other instruments ended up being good for me anyway.
No, for sure. I think so, for sure. Especially doing like a percussion thing and then a very much so melodic instrument. Having both perspectives, yeah, I think that's really good for you.
Well, do you ever think about that time? Or was this a flashback?
You know what? Every once in a blue moon, I'm like, oh, I remember, you know, that band teacher, and I'm like, how cool he was and everything like that.
Yes. That's dope.
But yeah, not really too much.
Jacob, I
What
didn't
about
ask
you?
you that question. Wait, let me see. Do you ever think about back whenever you got your bass on Christmas?
I think about it a lot, actually, surprisingly, because it's so random to me. Because when I got it, I was not expecting it at all. I had basically forgotten about the bass thing at that point. And funny enough, I remember it now that I'm thinking about it again, though. I remember the bass came with like one green pick that was like an emerald-looking pick. And I don't know why it came with one green emerald pick. And I don't know why the bass is like a no-name. And it was so weird. But yeah, I actually think about it a lot because the path that bass set me on, just buying it for me, and then 2 months later, someone being like, "Hey, you want to play in our band?" and me being like, "I guess I don't know what I'm doing," and then, funny enough, now those people aren't really doing much with their musical careers, and I'm here. I started so late, and it was so random. That's what's weird to me. Is I started late and it was random, and I actually do think about it a lot. It's weird to me.
Nice.
What about you, Jonathan?
Let me see. Like where it all began. I'm
He
just
actually
gonna-
doesn't remember, even though it's his own topic.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's why
No,
he
I-
asked. He was gonna steal one of our stories.
No.
That's what he tells people. Yeah, I wanted to be a drummer, and then I was put on sax.
Okay. It's actually a lot. I guess it's pretty silly. Like I didn't have cable either, so I would watch,
Cyber
Kings of
Chase.
Cyber
Cyber
Chase.
Chase. Oh my gosh. I honestly
Caillou,
think that's why I'm
Arthur.
good at math.
Arthur
think-
was the shit, though.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
That show produced so many memes now.
Clifford the Big Red Dog, man.
Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Dragon. It was
Clifford.
Dragon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jackie
Anyway,
Chan's Adventures, yeah. Mucha
my-
Lucha.
I don't think I watched that one.
It was so
Watch YouTube.
stupid, dude.
Oh, okay. Anyways, so like on Fox, they would have The Simpsons at like 5 o'clock or 4:30. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I would watch that every
Fox
freaking
26,
day.
baby.
Yes, and I guess it was just Lisa. Lisa was like my idol, like the
Oh,
reason
that's
I wanted.
cute.
Oh.
Yeah,
I love
whenever
that.
whenever she plays Baker Street, or I can't even sing it good, but just hearing that, I was like, "Fuck! I'll do band in 6th grade," and I chose the sax. My mom got it for me, and yeah, that was it. That's where I started, and it was through school I learned. And I guess I want to tell this one little story
Sure.
that I was actually like terrible. I couldn't even make a sound. And then one day the band director said he got another student who did know how to play. Like he just got the neck and the mouthpiece, and I went with the other student to where they had where we kept our cases and stuff, and then he just showed me how to do it, and then it was from there. I'm not gonna say your last name, but thank you, Alex. And then I was able to play it, and then in 7th grade, I remember, and 8th grade, I was doing football and I was doing band, and then I had support from my band director with doing music, so I chose to do music instead of football, and then that's where I kept going, I guess. But it was Lisa Simpson. was
That's
the
so
reason.
cool. I love that. How often do you think about Lisa Simpson? That's such a weird question.
Yeah.
Every now and then, right? But it's crazy because whenever I was playing with the Sundogs, I would literally play Baker Street a lot, and I wish I could have done it more justice. And I wish I remembered this memory while I was playing it. I think I would have cared a lot more.
So for both of us, it was literally cartoon characters that got us into this.
Yes.
See, you know what? We should if we start a band, you should get a shirt with Lisa on it. Josue should have a shirt with the Sonic Underground guys on it, and I'll have a shirt like Guitar Hero or something on it, and we'll just that's our band.
That's no mental. That's a fuck it. I don't know the word, but yes. All
Cool.
right.
Brain.
That was good.
Brain.
Yes.
It's
What's
your
What's
topic
that topic
time.
that you've been dying to tell us?
I have not been dying any way, shape, or form, but I do have a topic. All right.
All right.
Wake up.
I'm woken.
Prepare yourselves, boys, for battle. No. JK. Okay. So my topic is, as a blanket, live performance. And I would like to know all you guys' thoughts within live performance, right? On bands changing songs live from the way they're done on the album. All right? Firstly. Secondly, I'm interested in how you feel about theatricality in the live performance versus maybe just standing still and playing your instrument. And lastly, I'm wondering, how does the technicality of your music affect both of those? Does it affect the theatricality or the standstill nature of how you're going to have to perform? You know, and does it affect whether or not you play your songs verbatim or change them?
Right.
Jonathan?
Okay. I guess my first thought is like in Guitar Hero Through the Fire and Flames. Like, I think I would
Yeah.
watch YouTube videos online back then because it was really popular. Like they didn't really even play it in live. They couldn't, I think, or
That's
something.
a
It was
myth.
too hard.
No, that's
Oh,
a
okay.
myth. Yeah.
And then the next one is The Devil Went Down to Georgia. I don't think they could play that one live or something. It was too technical. Or like it sounds like way trashier live, the fiddle, but it sounds good on the recording or something. So those were my two things I thought of with that topic.
So
I guess
do
it's-
you think that if either of those bands were going to play live, that they absolutely must play them the way they were on the record, just because we're there to see if it's even humanly possible? You know.
I don't
What
know,
do you think?
man.
Jacob,
guess-
you look like you have an opinion. Cooking.
I think it's okay. Sorry, I think it's like you're gonna really let your fans down, but then if you do it and you blow it, you're gonna let them down anyways. And if you
Okay.
do it and you do a simplified version, it's a letdown, just not as big. So I guess yeah, you kind of have to be able to play it as good as the recording, or mix it up and make it sound really unique. I guess that's if it was something really big and well known.
I don't think these artists can't play it. This music is not that hard. People can play this stuff. I don't believe there's actually artists out there writing music that they can't perform. Like the craziest, fastest stuff I can think of is like Rings of Saturn, which is like the most technical, crazy stuff. And those dudes play it. They do videos of themselves showing themselves playing it. Like, go look up a Rings of Saturn bass playthrough. That stuff is like
Oh,
through
boy.
the stratosphere fast. I can't even like process it. Now, it's not like a whole lot of crazy slapping and stuff, but it's literally just raw speed. I'm like, people can play this stuff. I don't think they need to fake it. Now, if like what you're saying, if the theatrics mess up the quality of the playing, then yeah, you can't do the theatrics. Which I think is actually a problem with a lot of the technical artists, is that a lot of them can't do theatrics while playing the technical stuff. And so I'm a big fan of theatrics, actually. I think music is a show.
Same.
And I don't
Same.
think that standing still there while you're playing all the technical stuff is super interesting. Honestly, like, I could go to a show like that, and I have. I've gone to like, Archspire comes to mind. They're like a tech death band. And I'll literally just be looking at the bass player the entire time. And I'm like, this is just nuts, right? Just blowing my mind, the stuff that they're doing. But it's not my favorite type of shows. I would prefer the theatrics, I think. Not over the top theatrics, because I remember, I don't know, sometimes it can get really tacky. But yeah, I guess if they can't do the technical stuff and the theatrics at the same time, then just do your technical playing. But I think they can do the technical stuff. I mean, in order to record at that high level, you have to practice. It's like these actual technical musicians, like the tech death bands and stuff that are playing so ridiculously fast, they don't have the money to be in a studio recording each lick 10,000 times, right? Because that costs more money. They have to know how to play it. They go in, have to be able to do like 10 takes and be done, right? because they just simply don't have the funding to have a producer fix every single 5-note lick that they do or whatever, you know. Well, yeah, there's half of my opinion on it. I don't remember all the questions, but go ahead.
Oh, I'd just like to add that not only do they not have the money to do multiple takes on tape, especially, right? They play small venues with pretty much middle level gear or even kind of starter gear, right? So it's not like they have a big stage to run around anyway. So a lot of the more technical bands end up kind of just standing there the whole time, maybe doing some headbanging in the intense parts, but where are you going to go? You're all on top of one another.
True.
Right? I mean, Angus Young can run back and forth across the stage, and there's a theatricality there, but there's also a simplicity to the music there, right? And when he solos, he's not running back and forth. He stops and he finds a feedback spot in front of his monitor.
We're back on. What was the last question that you had, Brain? Or last main comment?
So I'm actually okay. So I was just saying how on the topic of changing songs live, a lot of people didn't just listen to this music. They danced to it as the song at their wedding, right? It was the favorite song of their mother who is now passed away, or what have you, you know, or maybe I lost my virginity in the back of a car to this Bon Jovi song, right? And to go to a concert and hear that song altered would disappoint some people. And just the idea that people had some music as like the soundtrack of their lives. They didn't just listen to it passively. They lived with this music, you know, through a whole decade, maybe. And then I was going to ask Josue to just talk about the topics in general. The changing of songs live, theatricality versus standing still, and how does your technical ability influence both of those?
I feel like I enjoy both kinds of shows. If I'm gonna go see like a technical band where they're just standing still, I'm usually in awe, you know, because the technique is just so incredible, and it's just like I'm like, whoa, this massive sound, this incredibleness, you know, makes up for that, right? But if you're like a semi-okay band trying to play technical and it's hard enough for you and you're standing still, that's kind of boring. If that were the case, you know, like one of my favorite bands, the Mars Volta, has like some kind of technical stuff, and live, you see a lot of comments where it's like, oh man, they sucked, because usually what they focus is on dancing, moving around. You know, they're out here, they're leaping on stage, they're, you know, I don't know, swinging their guitars around and stuff like that. And it's just so impressive. I love to see that. I love to see like people having fun on stage. And that's what people always tell me, you know, if I'm playing like the bass or the guitar or something, they're like, man, you look like you're having the best time out there. And it just makes it so much fun for us out here. And I'm like, dude, yes, exactly. You know, I don't like just standing there. I feel like that's just boring to look at, especially if the music is easy enough. If the music is easy enough, dude, just go dance, go enjoy it. As far as changing the songs go, I know with like the Mars Volta, like they're literally always improvising the songs, and I think it's cool. You get a different take. Otherwise, it's, for me anyway, as a musician, it's kind of boring to listen. You know, I can hear that on the record. I don't want to hear that necessarily live, you know. With pop music, especially, you know, they use a lot of sampled stuff. I love when pop artists have a real drum set on stage. You hear that crack of that snare, that boom, bah, and it's just like, thank you. You know, it's real. And, you know, I can really appreciate that. I know you mentioned earlier, like, you know, what if somebody's soundtrack was turned into like a reggae tune? I feel like I wouldn't mind, but you know, I can see that viewpoint if like a certain song meant so much to you and suddenly somebody changed it, you know, they get a little offended or pissed. But I'm cool with it. Unless it's like Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight, and I know that drum part exactly the way it goes, and if somebody's trying to replicate that and they've messed up, I'm just like, get off the stage. That's not right.
Jacob?
So it's funny you mentioned the pop musicians thing. Just so you know, Taylor Swift actually plays with a full band live. Full band, and her band musicians are fantastic. And there's some track, obviously, but not a whole ton. But so playing, first of all, a lot of musicians these days use tracks, right, to try to make the audio sound like people want it on the record, right? And it's not a problem. Tracks are not a problem. Adam Neely actually did a video on this. I feel like I quote Adam Neely every episode, but he did a video on this talking about people thinking that tracks are a problem, and they're like, oh, you're cheating and not really playing music and stuff. And it's like, well, he talks about the connection of aural to visual and how you can deceive yourself into thinking that you're hearing something being played that's not actually being played anyway. And he showed videos of like people playing guitar and they're not playing what's actually being heard and stuff. And it's because people just want something to represent what's being played. And, you know, there are, I'm sure there are some pretentious musicians out there who are like, no, that's not true. I need to actually hear it and stuff. And it's like, no, your brain tricks you into believing that that's actually there and actually happening. And I don't have a problem with it. I mean, basically all modern worship uses tracks. And you have like a click and guide in your ear and stuff. But it's interesting. I remember Mike Mangini talking about this when he became the drummer of Dream Theater, because he was asked in like an interview or something, because he was like, are you gonna play the drum parts the same way that Portnoy played them on all the other records, right? Because of course Portnoy played them like Portnoy, right? But is Mangini going to? Because Mangini is not as much of a progressive drummer as he is just straight like rock or metal or something, right? He's a lot more straight, whereas Portnoy is a lot more all over the place. And Josue, you can stop me if I'm saying something wrong because you're the real drum expert here. But Mangini said, he was like, you know, people who listen to our type of music are the people who want to hear our music exactly the way it is on the record. And he said, so I do my best to learn the drum parts the same way they are on the record and to learn Portnoy's exact parts and to play those live. And I thought that was super interesting because I don't actually care that much if it changes. Because sorry, there's echo coming from someone. I think it's Brain's End. But I don't care that much if it changes, and I think people need to recognize and understand that a live experience is always going to sound different than an album experience. If someone sounds just like they do on an album in the live setting, something's fishy to me. I'm like, how did you mix this room so properly to sound like a studio album and stuff? And I'm not even sure I want it, you know? I kind of want to hear other things in different parts. Of course, nobody likes being at that show at like a mid-sized venue like House of Blues or something, and the sound guy has no idea what he's doing, and the bass is the only thing you're hearing, and you're literally just hearing sub like whoa whoa. I'm sure we've all been at gigs like that, and it's like, why are there even other musicians on stage, right? And no one wants that. But of course it depends on the genre of music, because jazz, you're not going to want the same thing played. And like Wolfpack does theirs not the same as the album at all. They do all kinds of stuff like on Christmas in LA, right? They'll like divide people up to do harmonies and stuff in the audience and stuff, right? And all kinds of cool stuff like that. But personally, I mean, I'm totally cool with it being different than the album. As long as it doesn't change the groove too much. Because if the groove changes a whole lot, that's different as far as dancing goes, right? People, like, you want to be able to feel stuff, even in technical music, right? When there's like hits on upbeats and stuff, you want to be able to feel that every time, right? And last final thought. There's a certain band. I'll just say it. So Oh Sleeper is kind of a technical band at times, right? With Shane doing crazy guitar stuff, and I've seen them 14 or 15 times or something now. And one of the cool things about an Oh Sleeper show is that they are heavy theatrics. They have more energy than any other band I've seen live, and they get the crowd to have so much energy, right? And then because of that, everyone's going crazy and everything. And sometimes Shane will fudge a solo a little bit, and you'll see it on his face, and he just laughs it off. Or he'll be soloing, and then he'll like grab someone's phone from the audience and just do like some slide with their phone on his guitar or something, instead of playing like what's on the track, right? And no one cares because the energy is there, and the energy is in the room, and the theatrics are there.
You're right.
So those are my last thoughts.
You know, you said something about Mike Mangini, right? About how his fans want to hear this the way it was on the album. And I have this thing when I play with cover bands. Josue's leaving. I'm not going to say anything until he gets back.
Oh, really?
No, I'll say it.
Okay.
So I have this thing where I like to get the guitar tone. And a lot of the singers of the cover bands that I'll play bars with, they're like, man, who cares if you nailed the tone for this Zeppelin or this AC/DC? But I care, right? I want it to sound a lot like the album. And when I was at one of the Bye Bye Birdie rehearsals, I was playing a semi-hollow 335 type of guitar. And it just wasn't stylistically correct, you know, and I had to take it off, and I had another guitar there, and I put it on. It was a Fender Telecaster, and I plugged it in, and as soon as I started playing, everyone was like, oh, that's the sound, you know? That's the stylistic sound that we expect. We're playing like 50s rock and roll.
Yeah.
Elvis style rock, you know? And I think all this, and I hope Josue's soon to return. He is, I hear him. So, now that we have Josue back, I think that the big question of all this is the album the product that a band puts out? Because if so, if what they put out into the public is their product, then that is what they're selling. And when people pay money to see them, that is what they expect to receive, right? And it sounds tough, like the Mona Lisa. Could you ask the painter who painted the Mona Lisa? I don't know who it is. Someone chime in.
Da Vinci?
But could he even paint it again? Much less night after night as he's on tour in every city. No. So to ask a band to exactly recreate a masterpiece night after night after night on tour, it seems like a similar connection to make, right? To having someone recreate a masterpiece. It's almost impossible, and you almost must accept that it's going to be different. And that maybe the album isn't the product, but we all know with Lady Gaga, the album is her product. That single is her product. Ooh, plus the band would get bored.
That's
Chime in,
true.
Josue. Let's hear y'all guys.
I've got thoughts, but let Josue go.
I don't really want to chime in because it's hot as hell in here, and I just wanted to turn on the AC and mute the mic.
Okay.
Peace.
That's so sad. Jonathan, do you have anything?
No. No, I really don't.
Okay. So basically, so I'll start with the Da Vinci thing. Well, no, I'll start in the order that you went. So is the album the product? Not anymore is the answer. And we know that as musicians in the modern market. So 50, 60 years ago, the album was the product. You were selling the album. Your goal was to sell the album to get money from that. That's what people bought, right? That doesn't work anymore. You don't make money from an album anymore. The albums are not the product because albums are sent out for free. The only way you make money now is merch and live gigs. And so because of that, your album is actually just advertising for your live shows. Like 100%. You don't make money from Spotify. You don't make money from anything. So your album is just advertising. And I've accepted that, and I'm totally cool with that at this point. A lot of people still... Why does this say hang on? What on earth? Skype just told me to hang on. That was the weirdest thing
I still hear you, so don't hang on.
That
Keep
was the
going.
weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay.
We're gonna edit this.
No, I'm not. Too much editing. So I'm totally cool with that. Some musicians haven't accepted that yet, and they're like, people need to pay for music, and it's like, we're way beyond that point. Because of the internet, paying for art like this, of any kind, novels, like actual visual art, anything, it's basically can't happen. There has to be another way to get income from it because we live in the internet age. And so then you said the Da Vinci thing. I think it's Da Vinci. If I'm wrong, someone correct me. Josue's nodding. Okay, so Mona Lisa. It's so interesting that you mentioned that because did you know that there is another Mona Lisa, and there were likely many more? It's because if I recall correctly, Da Vinci had an apprentice or something. Maybe I'm misremembering this.
Probably.
Either Da Vinci had like an apprentice who also did the same paintings as him to recreate them or something, or Da Vinci himself did extra mock-ups and extra versions. And so there's another Mona Lisa out there that we have that looks almost the same as the original. And so it's interesting that you said, well, no, you can't recreate that masterpiece. And it's like, yeah, but it's super, super, super close to the original. And I think that's what the live show should be, right? It's like we can actually get that close to the original. It will not be exact. Almost strictly because of the room and the acoustics of a room, right? Like getting that is basically impossible, right? But you can get a pretty close accurate representation. And I think you can do that. I think you can do that live too. Again, I don't like it. I get weirded out if a live show sounds too much like an album. And then you had one last point that I forgot. What was your last point? You said 3 things. You said the album's the product, the Da Vinci painting, and then... Don't know. There you go. There's my thoughts on that.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, I thought that was an interesting point. And to summarize all of that, I think that especially if you're technical, you should do your best to perform your music the way it is on the album.
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
And theatrics, I think, should take a back seat to that. And I think Josue said it best. Like, if you have very simple music, you better be running around that stage doing backflips. There better be explosions, costumes, set changes. There better be some serious stuff happening. And that's kind of how I feel. I feel like Animals as leaders comes to mind. You would never expect them to run around the stage. You would expect them to stay put, step on their pedals, hit all the notes right, you know? And yeah, I think as best as you can, you should represent the music you put on the album.
How do you feel about Animals as Leaders live?
Okay, they pipe in the bass, which to me kind of is okay, you know. And I've seen them in small venues and big venues, and I think that it's just not fun. I don't have fun.
I agree. And I think we were at the same Animals as Leaders show at Warehouse one time. I think. Maybe not.
Yes, BT Bam. I know we were at the same BT Bam show.
Yeah, we were. Where they did Coma Ecliptic all the way through, I think. But
Exactly.
yeah, that was my only time seeing Animals as Leaders live. And now, in general, I think Warehouse Live has terrible acoustics, and I've never enjoyed a show there because that room sounds awful. I don't even
Terrible.
I don't even like going there. Their little side lounge, I don't know if you've ever been in their like side lounge small stage, that's fine. But their big room, sound is bouncing everywhere, and it's like it's
It's whistling.
yeah, it's inaudible because there's so much stuff going on, and like you can't even tell what people are doing. But I was so bored watching Animals as Leaders live. I was like blown away how bored I was, and I was like, I can't even tell what he's looping and what he's playing and this and that probably had to do with the room because sound was bouncing everywhere. But I was like, I do not care about this at all. No.
How did the drum sound? How did Matt Garska sound?
I don't remember.
I can say this. Go on.
Oh, never mind. Well, I'd seen like live, like professionally shot video recordings of Animals Leaders, and the guitars, I mean, sound like, but the drums just sound massive, and like, you know, like the way Pliny and stuff like that, they have like their sample drum sounds that they kind of use their digital libraries to produce stuff, you know, and it sounds cool. To me, that's what sort of Animals as Leaders sounds like on the record. But then live, it just sounds so bombastic when Matt Garska's just hitting those things so hard. I don't know. I feel like the drums sound really cool live.
Have you
with Animals
seen them
Leaders,
live
but
or just seen videos of them live?
I haven't. I haven't. That's what I was asking you. Like, how did they sound? Because that's, to me, the live video sort of put that out there, imply that like the drum sounded really good. But,
So I saw the band at a place called the Jet Lounge.
Mhm.
If y'all have ever heard of that. And every time they didn't have their sound guy, the samples and the synth pads and stuff that go into their music was terribly EQ'd, and yeah, there were whistling frequencies all in the room. And I can say that show that Jacob and I were at, it was Devin Townsend is the headliner, and BT Bam was before them. And every group that night sounded very whistly, very un-EQ'd. By the way, Jacob, the reason I was leaving the frame earlier was because of a big storm that I'm sure is hitting you. But
yeah, you saw my lights, and I'm like, I didn't even know it was raining or anything.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. But by the time Devin Townsend got out, he had his own engineer who brought their own board and brought their own mics and everything. And Devin Townsend project sounded album worthy. Unbelievable, no whistling frequencies. Everything was notched out right. Everything was in its place. And it doesn't hurt that they play through the Axe effects. You know, so everything is pre-EQ'd.
True.
The bass, the guitar, everything. All you have to do is mix drums live.
True. True.
And so Animals as Leaders must play their stuff live exactly the way the album goes. All the two-hand tapping stuff, if Tosin Abasi doesn't break that out, I cry. You know?
Even if he does, I don't care. I'm just so disappointed with that. I mean, I can blame Warehouse Live, and I'll just straight up say right now Warehouse Live sucks. But I can blame Warehouse Live, and maybe I need to see them again. But, I liked their first album, and then every other album after that, I got really bored with because it went too genty. That's just me, though.
Well, I think we're all kind of in agreement.
Yeah.
about the theatricality versus technicality. That you got to bring it in one way or another, and hopefully both.
One final thought. What do you guys think about over-the-top theatrics with bands? So thinking like Gwar, or if you're not familiar with Gwar, I guess like Slipknot or something. But Gwar is really like the artist I'm thinking of, where they're in big alien costumes and they're shooting like fake blood all over the crowd, and it's like you're supposed to wear a white t-shirt to a Gwar concert and stuff, and you know, they're like, I am Drasnar the whatever, I don't know their names. They go by weird names. What do you guys think of like way over the top theatrics like that?
Who are you pointing at? Oh man, I want the lead singer to eat a bat, man. I want it.
Yes. All right. I love it. I think one of the best bands in existence right now is Ghost BC. And they've gone off the rails now. But they used to use Gregorian chant and plain chant in Latin in a way in their music which was just revolutionary. In the costumes they use and the way they cycle musicians in and out, it's no longer about the musicians or who's playing guitar. It's about the music and the experience as a whole. And when I went to a Ghost BC show, they lit incense and played Masked Ball by Jocelyn Pook. And they did it for like 30 minutes. And all you hear is Gregorian chant in the dark with incense burning. And the show started pretty much before they even started, right? And that is theatricality to the limit.
What are they called?
Ghost BC.
Is that actually their official name, or do they just go by Ghost now?
No, they finally bought out Ghost, and now they're Ghost.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'll check them out. Yeah, they're pretty.
And there was
popular.
rumors
But
that like
funny enough,
Dave Grohl was
after-
their drummer, right?
Yes, and James.
Isn't he a comedian?
Who?
David Grohl or something? Dave Grohl.
You don't know who Dave Grohl is?
Is he the guy that looks like that one guy?
He's drummer of the Foo Fighters. No, guitar
Oh,
player
damn it.
and singer of the Foo Fighters, drummer of Nirvana.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Oh, but that kind of that you said nobody makes music for money, but the Foo Fighters do.
No, Lady Gaga does.
Taylor Swift makes money.
Mad money. Because you know we got bad blood. Because you know we got...
You can't sing that because we'll lose
Exactly.
our funding. We'll lose our funding. That's copyrighted. Can't do that.
We'll lose our audience. Oh, you think I'm good enough to constitute a recreation? I'm so thankful.
Maybe you were in
Right,
the right
thank
key or something. I don't know.
You
I have
walk
perfect pitch. Big boy.
You don't have a perfect pitch. Do you really? Did you develop it?
this side
Hell no.
together.
Hell no. And Gary Burton lost it, right?
Wait, I say,
All right. Well, that's basically the end of the podcast, right?
tell me why.
Yes, it is. Come see Bye Bye Birdie at Hudson High School Friday and Saturday.
Tight. Anybody else got final comments? Plug yourself, Instagram, stuff like that.
I'm gonna go watch Sarah Bareilles in November. I'm super hyped. That's it.
Cool. All right. Well,
All right,
y'all have
boys.
to-
audience, you are
Here.
listening to Clapping Music by Steve Reich. So everyone clap your way out of the stream.
I love you.